All right, episode 13. Well, here we go. Wherever you are, however you found us, thank you for spending part of your day with us here at Sword Talk. This is episode 13. We're going to do part two of the katanas. But before we start, I really want to thank everybody for making this such a big success. We're into about 6 weeks now since we've gone public with the show. Uh, Previously, as some of the viewers know, this was just private videos that I made for my clients around the world, and then at a suggestion, I made them all public, and it's really taken off. According to my website, we are now in just the 6 weeks, we're in 18 countries around the world. So, there are people who didn't know one end of a samurai sword from another who are now running around samurai crazy. Sword Talk has been successful. I thank you all for telling your friends about it. Remember, press that subscribe button, likes, notifications, so you'll know when a new episode's coming out. It's been a little longer between episodes. I had a little hand surgery, a little occupational hazard dealing with gripping the sword. I have something called trigger finger, my fourth one. And I don't like to do a video or handle the swords right after surgery because when a sharp sword drops in your lap, we call it a samurai bris. It's very dangerous and not recommended. So I waited a little bit. From now on, we're going to try to keep to a schedule of every 2 weeks to have new episodes based on your suggestions. Thanks a lot. Your questions have been heard. Thank you so much. I appreciate your interest. The next episode we're going to do a question and answer episode. That seems to be what some of you would like to hear. Remember to visit my website, which is American-Samurai.com, American-Samurai.com, and you can contact me directly through my website. Last section in the back next to the last section is contact us. Send me a personal email. I'll call you by phone. Contact you if you have any interest in purchasing any of the swords or more information on the website. Remember, the website doesn't contain yet, whether we're going to do it or not, we're not sure. Some people have suggested a section on the website on antiques. For now, no. It's only in the last year, actually, that I've been buying antiques on a select basis and selling them. I see now about 150 to 200 antiques every month. Of that, I may buy one. And again, to review for those people who are new, I look for obviously great value, but the first thing that stops me is because my whole context is to bring the samurai sword as a piece of fine art to the Western art world. I look at the overall beauty of the sword and the presentation of it. I don't buy just the naked blades. Samurai collectors usually sometimes just buy the blades and keep it in a wooden sheath. Don't consider myself an antique sword dealer. My project outlined on my website is the 8 Samurai Project. This is something that if I come across an antique that I know my clients who are interested in art, the samurai sword is fine art, might be interested in, I buy it and I offer it to you. And last year we had 12 swords put up for sale, and all 12 swords sold within 72 hours. Do check my past videos. Episode 12 especially, that's gotten over 600 hits in just, I think, 2 weeks. That's a fantastic sword, 700-year-old blade called the Mahara Lion, and it's worth seeing. And we go into a lot of background about swords from that era and so on, at least as much as we can in these shortened videos. I like to keep them short and sweet. For episode 13 now, it's part 2 of the 3 Katana series. And I got a real beauty for you. We started out with the most expensive katana, the Mahara Lion. This one, less than half the price of that, but truly a work of art, a real beauty. It's from 1631. So again, it's an old one, and it was the sort of a nice, powerful, famous daimyo lord. It's called Lord of Saga. Saga is a province in Japan that's a peninsula, so it's mostly surrounded by water. And the themes on it, the themes are the fittings on it, are all water themes and exquisite. The first thing I noticed when I saw the sword, it's all about the beauty of the total sword. This one really fits that description. As you can see, if you walk into my office and there it is sitting on my desk, the first thing you're going to notice is that it's what's called a split saya. The saya is the scabbard that houses the blade and protects the blade. Usually, almost always, it's that black lacquer hard coating that protects the blade from sunlight and dust and moisture, of course. This one is in itself a work of art. I like split sayas. The most influential piece of art I saw that made me do a split saya for the Eight Samurai series was in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's a very, very famous split saya. They're not usually done this way. This one's even more unique than that, or different than that, I should say. So it does have the wood here, and it's covered by something very special. We'll get into that. But this part, can you see the colors? It's got fabric and leather and copper. It has the ocean or the maritime theme. It has a nautilus in there, and it has a lot of sea themes. But it was probably part of the daimyo's garment that a particular robe or kimono that he liked, and he covered half of the saya in this. This is obviously a nice dress-up saya, not one that he would wear in battle. To say, look at me, somebody special. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And unique. Now, the second part of the saya that's covered by the wood has something unique. You'll see there's little dots throughout, like the stars of the sky. And what gives it its twinkle when it catches the light is these thousands of little particles are all hand-applied turquoise and jade mother of pearl. Now, when you think of mother of pearl, you think of white. That's the most common. There are different colors that are more unique. Red's very rare. The jade and the turquoise, the samurai really liked. And it's embedded throughout the body of the samurai saya. Wonderful. Here on the end is something I've always had a particular liking for. When I first started practicing iaido as a martial art, I got involved with collectors around the world, and they helped me collect the fittings, antique fittings on the sword. And I fell in love with kojiris, which were the butt end covering here, but they're rare. I just couldn't find them, and certainly decorative ones. Some of them are just the plain iron they were old. They were the oldest, but they couldn't find a lot of them. Nobody was collecting kojiri. This one not only has a kojiri, but normally kojiris are really short. They just cover the butt end. Because this is a prominent daimyo, he said, I want a piece of a work of art. So his goes back 4 or 5 inches. And what the way it's accomplished is, because of the age of this is tetsu, or iron. And with the iron, what they do is they carve in channels in the iron. The artist then fills it with gold or gold leaf. And it's exquisitely done, and then it's outlined in gold. There's a little design here that looks like a heart. It's called Buddha's tears. There's a lot of Buddhist symbolism throughout this, including the tendrils that have been overlaid in gold, cut out and overlaid in gold. So it has Kojiri, exquisite, really nice. The Kuragata is a piece that usually is the plainest piece on a sword. It's usually black bone. It's the horn. It's the water buffalo, horn of a water buffalo. It's black lacquered, just sits there. It is there to attach the cord, the sagio or sagio. So it is, however, the cord that attaches to my belt called the obi, from when Spielberg got and Lucas got the name Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars. We're going to do a whole episode on the connection of Star Wars and the Jedi Knights to the samurai, because that was the inspiration for George Lucas to do the Star Wars movies, which I know a lot of you know because you've been writing to me. And when I do my lectures, it seems at least half the audience knows about that connection. We'll do an episode on it. So this one normally is plain, not on this one. It's, again, the iron with the gold leaf design carved into it. Exquisite. And again, it has some of the sea motifs. What's under the handle of samurai swords is the belly of cowtail manta ray. Yeah, specific kind of manta ray. And it's noted for the Japanese, specifically like the nodules on the belly. They're called tsubos. And they like the size and the zen arrangement of it. And they use it for decorations and for gifts. And they use it as the underside of the handle, give that samurai a good grip. And then it's covered by the ito, the covering, mostly traditionally silk, can be cotton, and in some cases it's leather. I sold a piece here on Sword Talk a few months ago that was wrapped in leather, beautiful old blade. Now it sits in a private collection, but I have pictures of it. And it's actually on the website. Pictures of it are on the website too. Mostly though, it is the silk. The manuki, which are the pieces on the handle, are koi or carp. The koi in Japanese culture is very revered, and it's really honored. Multi-millionaire people have in their koi ponds fish that cost $100,000. Why is the koi fish so revered? It's part of a legend, and it's the legend of the Dragon Gate. It's how a lowly carp becomes a dragon. Both have scales, and the koi fish in this legend is facing its life of just being another koi fish out in the ocean. But once in a while, the legend states, there is within the soul of the carp a desire to be something better, to achieve a spiritual level. And what it does is it challenges the Dragon Gate. This is a spiritual waterfall that it must climb up, ascend, while the gods send down fire and rain and wind and everything else to keep it from its goal or to test it. And then at the top of the waterfall, there is this mystical portal called the Dragon Gate. And the 1 in a million carp that attempts it, then there's a 1 in a million of those that actually succeeds and passes through and becomes an immortal dragon. So it has become a symbol for anyone who strives, one of courage, devotion to a cause. And there are people who carry the carp symbols with them when they're going through certain tests in life. Students like to carry it before. big exams that mark the boundary of their education levels, people starting new jobs and so on. So the Manuki on this was chosen to be carp. The carp of gold, and the what looks like black background is called shukudo, and that's a mixture of gold and copper. On either end of the handle, we call it the fushi kashira, always made by one, these two pieces always made by one artist. The Manuki are made by most of the times a different artist. Tsuba, different, and so on. Sometimes you get a whole set that's made by the same artist. Very rare, expensive, almost always of extreme quality. On this one, the daimyo chose the theme of the lobster. Now the lobster is a strong theme in the samurai culture. The lobster is ferocious, a great fighter, great courage. Again, there's a nautical theme to this whole sword, so the lobster was perfect choice. I've always liked the lobster theme since the first time I saw a piece in the Boston Museum of Fine Arts Samurai Collection. Boston Museum of Fine Arts has 30,000 pieces in their collection. They're the largest samurai museum outside of Japan. Most of the stuff's in the basement, and they do rotating exhibits on it. But I saw one there that's all gold. Always wanted to have a sword that has the lobster. This one is copper, and then the gold, the tendrils of the lobster are finished off in gold. Magnificent. The front of the handle, the fushi, carries out that lobster theme, again with the gold accented. A real work of art. The tsuba, the sword guard, are sea plants. Carving in iron is difficult, and tsubas of this era were usually functional and not as ornamental as this one is. This tsuba has detail to it. It's really exquisite. And then it has one thing I kind of look for in my samurai art pieces. On the edge of the tsuba, it's outlined in gold foil. And again, because my people like the sword as art, well, rather than a plain edged tsuba, it's gold. When I do my 8 samurai, I think I've done every one of them with a gold edge because I like it. Here's an antique that's got it. All right, and now the blade. When drawing your sword out, never pull it out because it has a tight fit. It's designed to have a tight fit so it doesn't slide out. So before we draw the blade, when we're holding it, the samurai notches it with a thumb. Just notches it out, kind of like a gunslinger does with his gun. And then when you have it out, again, you want to draw it out so that the weight is on the bottom. The sharp edge on the top has very, very little clearance. And if you pull the sword up as you pull it out, you're going to cut into the saya. This particular one has a metal piece here to help prevent that, because in battle you might just do it. So this has a piece that protects it. When you're an Iaido student like myself, the first thing you learn is to be real careful about sliding the sword in and out, because it has very little clearance between this part of your hand and the very sharp edge of the blade. So you don't want to cut your hand. The blade is magnificent and very, very apropos to the period. We talked about the hamon. That's the design that's in the blade that separates the hard steel from the soft steel. Remember, the samurai sword was the perfect weapon because the ultimate weapon, it was called, because it didn't break in battle. It bent, unlike the other iron steel swords of its time and before it. The samurai smiths found a way to combine the soft and the hard steel, with the hard steel at the edge obviously, to form a good, hard, biting and cutting edge. And they were known for how sharp they were. And then the darker steel here is the softer steel. And then it culminates in the back, the spine, the muni, where you want the hard steel for strength. The clay mixture that's applied to the steel right before the final firing produces the design called the hamon. Now, the hamon, in this case, is sugaha, which again is most common of this period. It can also be an irregular, a wave, a madari of different styles. But this one is straight on, a sugaha. And right below that, in what is the dark steel gray of the blade, what we look for is another signature design of the smith, and we call it the hada. In this case, it's almost like a wood grain design. It's exceptionally beautiful because it really gives the steel depth. The hada and the hamon sometimes exist at different levels of the steel. So when we're viewing the steel, we have to view it sometimes in a totally dark room with one single light on it, and we get the angles of it to shine off of it. So we're examining the work of the artist. But just in regular light, it's magnificent. It's got a nice width. It's very elegant, and yet got some heft to it. The habaki is solid silver, and overall the sori, or the curve of it, is not too drastic. I don't like too drastic a sori. It doesn't feel, for me, as comfortable in the hand. It's not something that the Ido students like myself like to work with, because this one just feels better, nice, has a nicer balance to it, and so on. When you put your sword back in, you want to make sure that the weight is on the back. Again, you don't want to ride it up. Weight on the back, let the gravity comes in, and it kind of have that little final lock on it. One of the purposes of the habaki is its rough surface, is it sticks into the saya a little heavier. By the way, to see a really exquisite split saya, go to my website, look at 8 Samurai series, number 3, The Monk and the Dragon, which now sits in a private collection, no longer in my house, but I have the book on it, and it's my wife's favorite sword, and it's gorgeous. It's a split saya. So our next episode is going to be question and answer, and then after that we're going to get into the Wakizashi series, and an upcoming show I really want you to look out for. It's called The Most Beautiful Sword in the World. It's forged by the greatest living master, one of the greatest masters of all time, who happens to be late 70s. And he did one of the swords for my 8 Samurai series. He's considered the Michelangelo of swordsmiths. And it's his greatest sword. And we're going to do a whole show on that and on him. And until then, it's Tom for Sword Talk. Check out the website, subscribe, tell everybody you know about Sword Talk with Tom. Thanks all. Bye-bye.